Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. I know it's been a little bit, but I got some stuff in the works. I've been cooking in the kitchen a little bit, so be prepared for that. But otherwise, you clicked on this video because you looked at the title and you went, Damage versus Pierce? What's that about? Noah, I know how this game works. I've been playing this game for a long time. I know how much pierce and damage I should have, which to be fair, you probably do have a good idea. I'll give you that. But this is helpful for two reasons. One, I looked into it more in depth. I think this is important. You'll find the answer probably unsurprising, but at least interesting. And if you're a newer player, you may wonder, how much damage should I have? How much pierce should I have? I don't really know. So that's what I want to find out today. Now, this video was really inspired by a post I saw a month or two ago on the Wizard101 subreddit. I don't know if I can find it, but if I find it, I'll pull it up here. Basically, the post was someone going like, look at my storm stats. They're kind of crazy, no? And they had about like 200 damage and they had 67 pierce. And everyone in the comments was like, yo, you don't need that much pierce. And that got me thinking, what is the exact amount of pierce that is a good amount in Wizard101? What is that sweet spot number that truly is the pierce you want? Now let's start off with how Kaiser recently complicated things. Now, for the longest time, the only good circle slot jewel was pierce. The other jewels of critical and flat damage just weren't very good. So the only real option was to use pierce. So for a long time, we just slotted pierce on everything. So at Thames, rings, whatever, if it has a circle slot, you put a pierce jewel there. But recently, Kaiser kind of added this new thing called a damage jewel, a percent damage jewel, which was kind of insane, not gonna lie. It completely ruined the balance of the game. All of a sudden, everyone had 230 damage, which was a little crazy, which is why they implemented the damage cap back in, because they were very concerned, because all of a sudden everyone has a ton of damage. So they threw a quick band-aid on that. But the addition of that kind of threw that into question, because a lot of people were going all damage jewels and they were getting up to 250 damage, but their pierce was too low. Some people were like that guy on Reddit that I mentioned, where they threw everything in the pierce and completely ignored the damage jewels and had like 60 pierce. So that's kind of where this video comes from, is the jewels with how much you have, how much damage should you have, and how much pierce should you have. So I've been rambling for a while, but let's look at the stats, because I'm sure that that's what you came here for. So on the screen over there, you can see that I have a list that has a bunch of numbers, and you may be like, Noah, what do these numbers mean? Well, this right here is the highest resist stat of every enemy in Wallaroo. So specifically every boss. Let me clarify that. So you can see here there is about 30 or so bosses in Wallaroo. The Paradox boss in the beginning, 22. The Dingo Bandit, 9. Okay, I did actually look at mobs. I completely lied to you just a second ago. You can see a few outliers here, like Zolomon, for example, has 44. Ned Colley has 37. Armored Ned Colley has 42. Despair has 42. Judge Judy has 42. Luigi DeMario has 40. Freddy 2 has 37. So on and so forth. I'll just quickly scroll up and down so you can see all of them. You can see there isn't too many outliers. The Urk bosses that you fight tend to have a lot of resist, and the average boss probably has a little less, and mobs have almost no resist, if we're being completely honest. Now, I could do this to other worlds, but I think that that's kind of pointless for two reasons. First off, the fact that newer worlds are going to look more like Wallaroo than, say, Chrysalis or even Imperia. And two, the data wasn't much different. I did look through quite a lot of Chrysalis bosses, and the only real difference I would say is that most bosses nowadays have universal resist, like they have a lot of resist stats, which is why pierce is so important nowadays. But back in the Chrysalis days, bosses didn't have universal resist. They kind of just had their resist of their type of school, and they had about 80 of it, which means that pierce kind of sucked anyway. So with that data out there, and from establishing that the highest boss has about 40, let's get to the crux of the matter and answer the question, how much pierce should you have? So judging based off that data, obviously 40 is definitely a very good point. It is a sweet mark. 40 will cover just about everything in this game, but that's not looking at all pierce does, because pierce also goes through shields. Personally, I would say 40 is a reasonable amount, but 50 would be a good number to shoot for because that will guarantee that tower shields are basically non-existent. So you'd be able to A, pierce through every mob's resist in the game, and B, pierce through most shields, and on minus 70 shields or even minus 80 shields, if for some reason an enemy uses that, you'd pierce through most of it. Now, looking at my current wizards and most modern builds of this game, you're going to be seeing probably about 230 to 240 damage with about 40 pierce. So you can see here, I have a solid 42 pierce and 237 damage. Now, I could probably trade down one of these damage jewels for another pierce jewel that would give me a little bit extra. That would put me down to 220 damage, which is probably satisfying enough, and get up to 48 pierce. But I kind of like having 230 damage. I feel like 230 is a good number to shoot for, especially on damaging schools. If you're on schools that are less damaging, you could probably switch out for higher pierce. Now that I've run through all of that and kind of answered the question, the answer being about 40 to 50, let's get to the last section of this video, which is pierce as a stat and kind of how much you want to focus on it before the higher levels, because this obviously is pierce at a max level, but a person may want to watch this video and find out how much pierce should I have at different sections of the game. So you start getting pierce at around level 80. That's when it was introduced to the game in Avalon with the pierce spells, and then obviously the actual stat itself was added and was added to a lot of things like the Sword of Kings, for example, and pack gear at the time. And I would say that at this point, pierce isn't that important. I would say pierce really starts ramping up and getting important at 95 to 100. The reason is that Malastair gear obviously has quite a bit of pierce on it. I would say you jump up from probably about 0 pierce up to the 15 to 20 range with the Malastair gear. And on top of that, at level 95, you unlock the modern pierce jewels. So that's what most people will be using from level 95 onwards. And I would say that you can probably get up to the 20 to 30 range at level 100, and I think that's pretty satisfactory. Once you get into the level 130 range, that's probably when you should start trying to get up to that 40 mark, and obviously at max level 170, that's when you're going to start trading a little bit of that pierce that you built up for some damage jewels to get to the 230 range. So that's about it for today. I know that this is a shorter video. It's probably going to end up being 8 to 9 minutes long, but really, I don't want to drag this topic out too long. I don't want to just keep rambling on about damage versus pierce. This was supposed to be kind of a short and concise video. If anything, I kind of bloated it a little bit by adding that last section of how much your pierce should be at different levels. But I feel like a 6-minute video was kind of a little too short, and also the fact that I feel like it's an important question that some people may have. But that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how much pierce your build has. But that's it. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. Adios.